Germany built the strongest industrial economy in Europe. For decades, it was the envy of the developed world. Its factories produced some of the most respected products on Earth. Its cars became symbols of engineering excellence. Its machinery powered industries across continents. And while many Western economies increasingly relied on finance, technology, or consumer spending, Germany continued doing something old-fashioned. It made things. Real things. Cars. Industrial equipment. Chemicals. Machine tools. For years, that strategy worked brilliantly. Germany became Europe's economic powerhouse. The engine of the European Union, the country that seemed to have figured out how to remain rich in an increasingly competitive world. But today, something is changing. Germany's economy has stalled. Industrial production is weakening. Major manufacturers are cutting jobs. Investment is slowing. And for the first time in decades, many economists are asking a question that would have sounded absurd not long ago. Is Germany losing its economic miracle? Now, at first glance, this doesn't make much sense. Germany still possesses world-class companies. It still has one of the most skilled workforces in the world. Its products remain respected globally. Its infrastructure is strong. Its institutions are stable. So why is the country suddenly struggling? The answer is both surprisingly simple and deeply uncomfortable, because many of the conditions that made Germany rich no longer exist. For decades, Germany benefited from a near-perfect economic formula: cheap energy from Russia, a massive export market in China, strong demand from the rest of Europe, a highly skilled workforce, and a globalized world hungry for German manufacturing. Together, these factors created one of the most successful industrial economies in modern history. But one by one, those pillars are beginning to crack. Russia became a geopolitical risk. China became a competitor. Globalization slowed. Energy costs surged. And Germany's population began aging rapidly. Suddenly, the model that once looked unstoppable started looking vulnerable. The irony is almost painful. Germany's success may have created the very conditions that now threaten it. Because when a system works extremely well for a very long time, it becomes difficult to change. Companies invest around it. Governments build policies around it. Workers build careers around it. Entire societies begin assuming it will continue forever. But history rarely allows that. And Germany now finds itself confronting a reality that many successful nations eventually face. The world changed, but its economic model did not change fast enough with it. To understand why Germany is struggling today, we need to answer three important questions. How did Germany become Europe's industrial giant? What exactly is breaking inside the system today? And perhaps most importantly, if Germany can no longer rely on the model that made it rich, what comes next? To answer that, we need to go back several decades, because Germany's current problems did not begin with inflation. They did not begin with Ukraine. And they did not begin with China. The roots of today's crisis were planted during Germany's greatest economic success. Following World War II, West Germany achieved what became known as the Wirtschaftswunder, the economic miracle. The country transformed itself from devastation into one of the most productive industrial economies on Earth. Factories expanded, exports surged, manufacturing became the backbone of national prosperity. German companies built a reputation for quality that few countries could match. Whether it was Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Volkswagen, Siemens, BASF, or Bosch, German brands became synonymous with engineering precision. Over time, Germany developed a unique economic identity. While many nations shifted toward services and finance, Germany doubled down on advanced manufacturing. This strategy created millions of high-paying jobs. It supported a powerful middle class. And it turned Germany into Europe's export champion. But hidden inside this success was a growing dependency. Germany increasingly relied on selling industrial goods to the rest of the world, especially to one customer, China. And it increasingly relied on one supplier, Russia. For years, this arrangement looked brilliant. German factories received cheap Russian energy. Chinese consumers bought German products. Everyone seemed to win. The system was so efficient that few questioned it, but beneath the surface, Germany was becoming deeply dependent on forces it could not fully control. And when those forces began changing, the consequences would be far larger than almost anyone expected. For years, Germany's economic model looked almost perfect. Cheap energy from Russia, massive demand from China, a world increasingly dependent on German machinery, chemicals, and automobiles. But what looked like strength was quietly becoming dependency, and dependency is rarely visible until something breaks. The first crack appeared in energy. For decades, Germany built much of its industrial competitiveness around access to inexpensive Russian natural gas. This arrangement was not accidental. German policymakers believed economic interdependence would create stability. Russia would sell energy. Germany would buy it. Industry would thrive. Everyone would benefit. At least, that was the theory. And for many years, it worked. German chemical plants expanded, steel production remained competitive, manufacturers enjoyed some of the lowest industrial energy costs among major developed economies. The problem was that Germany gradually became comfortable with this arrangement, too comfortable, because when something is cheap for long enough, people stop imagining a world where it isn't. Then came 2022. The invasion of Ukraine changed everything. Suddenly, the energy relationship that had supported German industry for decades became a geopolitical liability. Gas supplies shrank, prices exploded, and Germany found itself scrambling for alternatives. Factories that once enjoyed predictable energy costs suddenly faced enormous uncertainty. For energy-intensive industries, the consequences were severe. Some reduced production. Others shifted investment elsewhere. Some began questioning whether Germany remained the best place to manufacture at all. But energy was only the beginning, because while Germany was dealing with Russia, another challenge was emerging in the East: China. For years, China had been Germany's dream customer, a rapidly growing economy with hundreds of millions of consumers entering the middle class. Chinese buyers loved German cars. German machinery powered Chinese factories. German exports flooded Chinese markets. China became one of Germany's largest trading partners. To German executives, it looked like an endless opportunity. But there was one problem. China wasn't just buying German products. It was learning how to make them. At first, Chinese manufacturers focused on low-cost production. Then they moved into more advanced industries, then more sophisticated technologies. And eventually they began competing directly with the companies that had once supplied them. The student was becoming the rival. This transformation became particularly obvious in the automotive sector. For decades, German automakers dominated global premium vehicles: BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Audi, Volkswagen. These brands represented engineering excellence. But the automotive industry was entering its biggest transformation in over a century: the transition to electric vehicles. And suddenly, many of Germany's traditional advantages became less valuable. The internal combustion engine had been Germany's masterpiece. Electric vehicles required a different set of strengths: battery technology, software integration, semiconductors, digital ecosystems. And while German companies were refining combustion engines, new competitors were racing ahead in electric mobility, especially in China. Chinese EV manufacturers expanded rapidly. They improved quality, lowered costs, and began challenging German automakers not only inside China, but globally. For the first time in decades, Germany's automotive dominance looked vulnerable. And this matters enormously, because Germany doesn't just make cars. Cars are one of the foundations of its entire economic system. Millions of jobs depend directly or indirectly on automotive manufacturing. Entire regions depend on the industry. Supply chains stretch across the continent. When German automakers struggle, the effects ripple throughout the entire economy. And unfortunately, the challenges didn't stop there. Because even as Germany faced higher energy costs and rising competition, another problem was quietly growing in the background: demographics. Like much of the developed world, Germany is aging. Birth rates have remained below replacement levels for decades. The workforce is shrinking, retirements are accelerating, and businesses increasingly struggle to find skilled workers. This creates a paradox. Germany has jobs. Germany has companies. Germany has demand for skilled labor, but it increasingly lacks enough workers to sustain the model. And unlike previous generations, many younger workers have different priorities. The culture of sacrificing everything for industrial productivity is becoming harder to maintain. Work-life balance matters more. Demographic realities are becoming impossible to ignore. And every year, the challenge grows larger because modern industrial economies need workers, not just today, but tomorrow. And the pool of available workers is shrinking. The result is a slow but significant erosion of Germany's productive capacity. Factories can invest in automation. Companies can improve efficiency, but demographics remain one of the hardest economic forces to overcome. You can build new factories. You cannot instantly create a new generation. And all of these pressures are beginning to collide at the same time. Higher energy costs, greater competition, industrial transition, aging demographics, slower globalization. Individually, each challenge is manageable. Together, they become something far more serious. A challenge to the entire economic model itself. And this is where Germany's story becomes much bigger than Germany. Because what is happening there may actually be a preview of what many advanced economies are about to experience. A world where the assumptions that created prosperity for decades no longer hold. And where success itself can become a source of vulnerability. Because the greatest danger facing Germany isn't that one industry is struggling, or that one crisis occurred. The real danger is that the world changed faster than Germany's model could adapt. And that realization is now forcing the country to confront a question it has avoided for years. What if the economic system that made Germany rich no longer works in the 21st century? If rising energy costs were one crack in Germany's economic model and China's emergence as a competitor was another, then productivity may be the deepest problem of all. Because productivity is what ultimately determines whether an economy becomes richer over time. Not debt, not asset prices, not government spending. Productivity, the ability to create more value with the same amount of labor and capital. And for decades, Germany excelled at this. Its factories became global benchmarks. Its engineers were world-renowned. Its industrial processes were admired everywhere. But the global economy is changing. The next wave of productivity growth is increasingly being driven not by mechanical engineering, but by software, artificial intelligence, data, automation, and digital infrastructure. And this is where Germany faces a difficult challenge. Germany mastered the Industrial Revolution, but the digital revolution is proving much harder. Compared to many of its peers, Germany has often been slower to digitize. Government bureaucracy remains heavily paper-based. Digital infrastructure has lagged behind expectations. Many traditional firms remain cautious about rapid technological disruption. This caution made sense in a world where stability was rewarded, but the world increasingly rewards speed. And nowhere is that more obvious than in artificial intelligence. Today, the United States dominates much of the global AI ecosystem. China is investing aggressively. Tech giants are pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into data centers, semiconductors, and AI models. The race has already begun. Germany, meanwhile, finds itself in a familiar position. Its industrial base remains world-class. But the next economic battlefield is being fought somewhere else, and that creates a dangerous possibility. Because Germany's greatest strengths may be concentrated in sectors that are growing more slowly than the industries shaping the future. The country that perfected the automobile now faces a future increasingly defined by software. The country that mastered industrial machinery now competes in a world where algorithms generate enormous value. And unlike previous industrial transitions, this one is happening extremely fast. For decades, Germany could rely on gradual change. Factories evolved, supply chains adapted, workers retrained over generations. But artificial intelligence may compress decades of change into just a few years, and that creates uncertainty, not only for Germany, but for every advanced industrial economy. Which brings us back to the central question: why is Germany falling behind? The answer isn't that Germany suddenly became weak. Far from it. Germany remains one of the most advanced economies on Earth. Its companies remain globally respected. Its workers remain highly skilled. Its institutions remain strong. The problem is something more subtle. Germany optimized itself for a world that no longer exists. A world of cheap energy, expanding globalization, stable demographics, predictable supply chains, growing export markets, and gradual technological change. That world is disappearing. The new world looks very different. Energy is geopolitical. Supply chains are fragmented. Demographics are deteriorating. Competition is intensifying. Technology is accelerating. And increasingly, value is being created in digital ecosystems rather than traditional manufacturing alone. This does not mean Germany is doomed, but it does mean Germany must adapt. The challenge is that adaptation becomes harder the more successful a system has been. When something works for decades, changing it feels unnecessary, until suddenly it becomes unavoidable. History is full of examples. The British Empire once dominated global trade. Detroit once dominated automobiles. Japan once seemed unstoppable. Every great economic success story eventually encounters the same problem. The future rarely rewards yesterday's strengths forever. And Germany may now be confronting that reality. Because the true threat is not recession, or energy prices, or even Chinese competition. The true threat is becoming trapped between two worlds. Too invested in the old economy to move quickly, yet not moving quickly enough to dominate the new one. And this is why Germany's story matters far beyond Germany itself. Many developed nations face the same pressures: aging populations, industrial transitions, technological disruption, geopolitical fragmentation. The question Germany is trying to answer today may soon become the question everyone is trying to answer. How do you reinvent an economy that was built for a different era? Because the uncomfortable truth is this: Germany's economic miracle was real. It worked. It created prosperity for millions. It turned a devastated post-war nation into Europe's industrial giant. But economic miracles are not permanent. They are products of specific conditions. And when those conditions change, even the most successful models must evolve. Which brings us to the final and perhaps most important realization. The greatest danger facing Germany is not that its economy collapses. It probably won't. Germany has too many strengths for that. The real danger is something much quieter: a slow erosion of relevance, a gradual decline in competitiveness, a future where Germany remains wealthy but no longer leads, where it becomes a country preserving past success rather than creating future success. And that may be the hardest challenge of all. Because decline rarely arrives dramatically. It arrives gradually. One lost industry, one missed innovation, one delayed reform at a time. The irony is that Germany's success